everyone. Whether you are a blockchain or a technology enthusiast or someone who's just getting started into this domain, the Archethic Webinar series will be a series of episodes that will not only be fun but also informative and will inform you of the latest happenings and innovation in this space. One of the reasons why we have decided to also create this webinar series would be for our global community, which is growing rapidly. And as most of the community members do not want to go through a very long white paper, this series will inform them of the latest happenings, not only within the space, but also with the Archethic Public Blockchain. I have with me, today Nilesh and Akshay here, and we will be talking more. While this is an introductory episode where we will talk about what exactly gave birth to Archethic Public Blockchain. But yes, Akshay and Nilesh, if you want to say hi and add something more, please feel free to do that.
Hi everyone. Yeah, the idea, as Vishnupriya correctly mentioned, the idea is to demystify the white paper, make it easy to consume. Information is available in all forms, but Archethic white paper till now was available as a PDF to be read. So we thought that maybe through this webinar series we make we create another medium for people to understand it. So yeah, today first episode will be more of an introduction, and we'll talk of multiple things, as Vishnupriya said, and in next episodes it will become more and more specific. Yeah.
Thank you, Nilesh. So the first episode is called a blockchain for global use and consensus mechanisms. Blockchain is just getting started. It is said that it is going to be, one of the most important technology of the coming decade. But in spite of that, if you look around, it is still considered, very fragile and not ready for, global adoption. So why do you think is that a technology that is truly changed or redefined money, the way information flows, and internet itself is still not ready for global use? Why do you think that is?
So let me pick that, and it's a very interesting topic. Multiple things to talk about. I call this the Netscape moment, right? So if you look at every technology, it goes through a phase whereby there are some early adopters, and the technology itself is rapidly evolving, but people have not adopted it as yet. It's mostly the techie folks, the early adopters, and it remains in that realm, right? And then comes the Netscape moment. And to be honest, what was the Netscape moment, right? Even when you look at internet from the days of its inception, it was limited to from a military use to a more of a very enterprise kind of a use. The reasons were multiple. One of them was simplicity of access, right? The whole idea was that you used to have, and I have used it, a command line browser, and the information was presented in a format which was difficult to consume, difficult to assimilate, right? So then came that Netscape moment, right? When there is this inflection point where suddenly the adoption grows infinitely, right? That is that Netscape moment. And why does it grow infinitely? Because some app or some product comes into the market which solves that problem, right? In this case, Netscape provided a fantastic interface from that day's perspective for people to easily understand the power of the internet and start using it. Before that, it was not even evident to people what power internet had. So you are absolutely right. I don't think that Netscape moment has happened for blockchain. Now, what are some of the reasons, right? The reasons are related to multiple aspects, right? It is related to. I'll start with first the access part itself, like in the internet world, right? Was it easy to access, easy to assimilate the information? When you look at blockchain, no, the answer is simply not. You need to have more than bare technology prowess to actually access the internet. It starts right from how do you manage your private chain, private keys, right? So essentially there are some hardware solutions, software solutions, but the fact is that without understanding of this whole key management, you cannot really access any blockchain, right? So the access itself puts a certain amount of entry barrier. When I talk to people around me, or even a generation above me, they'll not even venture into this whole area of blockchains. So that is the first aspect. Second aspect is that a lot of adoption is also driven by what can you do with the technology, right? So one is ease of access, but after having access, what do you do with that piece of technology? So in the internet world, obviously it was, Netscape browser used to have, those days they used to have a kind of a store kind of a mechanism. They had search, and slowly people understood what all they could do with internet, right? But when you look at blockchain, probably because of the access and because of the unavailability of scale, there are not many applications, right? The real world applications. When I say real world applications, is today, if you look at any consumer of internet, there are certain categories, right? So there is search, and then there is e-tail, there is a lot of social network, and these are the things that people end up doing in the network, on the internet, right? On the blockchain, even if I get access with ease, is there any such application available? And the question is not really why the application is not available. The question is, people can create that kind of application even on Ethereum, but it just doesn't have scale, right? So if you talk of simple thing like e-tailers, right, on Amazon, right? So for a brief moment, you would have seen there was a news that Amazon will start accepting Bitcoin, right? It was kind of rubbished by Amazon spokespeople that no, this is not happening. But now let's take this example. So I have personally done a couple of projects for retailers, and you would be surprised to know the amount of cart abandonment rate. What is a cart abandonment rate? Whereby I put stuff into my cart and then I just abandon that cart. I don't pay, right? I don't make a payment. So essentially the transaction is not complete. The cart abandonment rate ranges anywhere from 30 to 50%, right? And why does it happen? Why does cart abandonment happen? One of the core issues with cart abandonment is payment. I tried a payment, the payment was unsuccessful, it was convoluted, whatever the reasons, and I just lost interest and I left my cart, right? There can be other reasons also that I had just put it as a wish list. There are multiple reasons for cart abandonment, but cart abandonment is a factor that is really, e-tailers are looking at that factor. What is the percentage? How to reduce it? Now suddenly comes a Bitcoin or a Ethereum in picture, right? And now I put it as a payment option. I, as an e-tailer, put it as a payment option. I can tell you that even if my consumer has Bitcoin, the chances of cart abandonment are so high because I'll be sitting there for 10 minutes for the payment to happen, right? And in those 10 minutes, in this whole connected world with so many Google assistants and Siris of the world, your attention span is very low, and you might actually get some small message which says there is another sale going on or whatever. So if I'm not able to finish that transaction in second, I'll lose the cart. So now think about it. So here is where I'm coming. It's not that people cannot create applications on top of blockchain. It's not that blockchain cannot become a payment option on other, or any kind of option, not just payment or, social network. Can you create a social network on blockchain? Yes, you can. The problem always comes from the scale part of it. If there is no scale, then there is going to be no use of creating that kind of a application. So after simplicity of access comes the scale part of it, right? Without the scale, blockchain will never become mainstream. So these are kind of two very high level areas that come to mind when I say that the Netscape moment of blockchain has not arrived. When will it arrive? It will arrive when you get one killer application, right? That is important. So after access, you also need some one killer application which really captures the imagination of the community, of the people, whereby they are even ready to forego their old habits and move on to this. So you need a killer app. And second, definitely scale comes into picture always, right? Whether it's this killer app or it's many other apps where blockchain may want to participate but cannot due to scale. So Vishnupriya, these are two things where I see that while there is a promise, it has not really become mainstream. I'll briefly, also very briefly, touch upon the promise part of it, because it's one of the topics very close to my heart, and that was a reason why I jumped into the blockchain field, right? So and I'll do a comparison of internet and blockchain. Now, in internet, if I were to ask you and Akshay that do you know who created, let's say, TCP/IP, or if I ask you, who created VoIP, and what is their net worth? Probably the answer will be, I don't know. Probably one of you might, but it is not going to be a trivia question that is going to be easy to answer.
Okay. It is not.
It is not. So, but if I ask you, and if I ask their net worth, are they billionaires? The answer is no, right? But if I ask you, do you know who founded Amazon? Obviously, and he's the richest person in the world. So now, what does it show, right? So people who created the protocol, right, the whole transport layer on which internet runs, they are nondescript. You don't know about them. They have not been able to gain the value of their creation, right? But the application on top of it, whether it's Google or Amazon, they are the people who have been able to realize the value, and they are the people who we are aware of today, right? So what does it tell you is, it's a very interesting paper I had read. It tells you about fat application and thin protocol, right? So what we are saying is the protocol layer is very thin in the internet, and while the application layer is very fat. What does it mean by fat? The reason why they have been able to realize value is because the data is stored in the application. The rules are defined in the application, right? The logic is in the application. The transport layer just provides the rails on which this information moves. That is why the protocol is thin. Now, why did I say that this issue is close at heart is because the idea with which internet was born was disintermediation, right? So ideally, the protocol should have been the strongest actor in this game, right? And the reason is that would have meant that people are not able to monetize our data, or this whole rise of surveillance capitalism would not have happened, right? But it has, because the protocol does not enforce anything, and applications the fat applications are left to do whatever they want, and that is why they capture and realize value. Now come to blockchain. Why it is a fantastic revolution that is waiting to happen. The reason is in blockchain the protocol is fat and the application is thin. What I mean by that is the blockchain is the one which enforces rules. The blockchain is the one where actually the data resides, right? And only the user experience and some very basic rules or logics are kept for the application, which is very thin. So thin applications. And that is why we call them decentralized applications, right? So if you look at applications on top of Ethereum, the bulk of the work is being done by Ethereum, and the user experience is managed by the thin application. Now, what it does now, why I said it is that is what it makes it revolutionary. The reason is that the whole data part, which has been monetized thus far in the internet world, resides in the blockchain in a very encrypted fashion. It is not available for anyone. So no one can monetize your or my data without our permission. It can be monetized, but the data is encrypted, and it is up to the user whether they want to share the data. So this whole aspect of a fat protocol, a protocol where rule is governed by the code, is just fantastic, and it gives so much freedom and so much security to individual that ideally world should have it. It should be the next revolution, kind of, right? So these were the kind of two parts. Akshay, if you would like to add something.
Oh yes, so that actually goes to the very core principle of code is law. So the blockchain's code is a law, and no one can tamper with the blockchain code. But if it's a centralized, or if it's on the internet, like, it can be easily be tampered with, and also the security compromises are very high. And like, I just want to add one more point, was that so like with the internet, no matter how many security certificates we add on top of the application, so no matter how fat like the application is on the internet, like, it still can be tampered with easily. But with blockchain, like if the protocol is very well built, so the security is very high, and no hacks or no tampering can be had.
So Akshay, I will come to you now, because Nilesh has given a very fantastic, introduction about not only internet, but why blockchain holds immense potential that has not yet been capitalized. You are a generation Z, so you've been on both sides of the spectrum. You have seen the evolution of or the birth of early blockchain players, and now you yourself are building one. So I mean, why do you think that what are the drawbacks? While if you there are so many blockchain players, and in spite of that, Nilesh has very he's proved this point that they are not ready for global adoption. So why do you think that is? If you could kind of give some examples basis your learning so far, that why has that not happened? Typically when it comes to the fact that it has been more than a decade that blockchain has been present as a technology. Why do you think that is?
Oh yes, definitely. So like, according to what Nilesh told, like, the Netscape moment for blockchain has not yet arrived. So like, Nilesh touched upon two important points. So one is the simplicity of use, that is the private public key hassle, and the second is the scalability, where blockchains are not able to scale. And there are two other important points. So like, one would be the sustainability part. So blockchains today consume so much energy than internet. So Bitcoin consumes almost the electricity consumption of one household per month, per transaction. So like, that's a lot of energy consumption by blockchains. And the last point would be towards the security. Yes, like, even though like in blockchains, the protocol is a fat layer and the application is a very thin layer, the fat layer can sometimes be tampered with, provided it has enough computational power across the globe, right? So that's why even the security part of the blockchain has to be considered and has to be stressed upon. So when all these four problems, security, sustainability, simplicity, and scalability, and all these four problems are solved and improved upon, not just one time or two times, but 100x or 1000x, only then a solution is ready, like, for a common man's use. So you see, so like, Nilesh, if you want to add upon that very part.
No, correct. So what that reminds me of it just reminded me of a quote I had read that, any big innovation, a big innovation requires a change of behavior, right? So innovation, small innovations probably also require, but a big innovation requires a change on part of the behavior of a consumer of that innovation. And that kind of change, to be honest, like Akshay, you mentioned correctly, that doesn't happen till the time I see at least minimum 10x kind of an improvement, right? So for you and me, I mean, a small thing I was thinking of the other day, when Google changes its email layout, right? For years, till the time they had to push that down my throat, I didn't change my email layout, right? Because the fact is that I'm just used to it, right? I don't want to change that habit till the time I see a minimum 10x kind of value. Why should I change? The change is always difficult. I'll have to look at something different in the Google layout now, so I'll just keep postponing. No, I don't want to change. I want to the classic look. So you are very right. Blockchain for mass adoption, other than the 4 factors that you mentioned, till the time they are really giving that 100x kind of a improvement, I don't see an incentive, essentially. That is also a very good point. Yeah.
Yes. To add to that, so like that is why the main mission of Archethic Blockchain would be to tackle these 4 problems and to make it 1,000, like even 3.6 billion times more efficient than the previous ones.
So right, with Archethic Public Blockchain, the Netscape movement of the blockchain industry will arrive. Because we have mentioned Archethic Public Blockchain, if you could, Nilesh, before we wind up this session, just kind of give a very, very brief background, while we'll cover more, like we said, in the coming episodes. Just 2-3 lines to summarize the vision of the Archethic Public Blockchain.
Correct. So like Akshay mentioned about the 4 things, simplicity, scale, sustainability, and security, like 4 S's, 4 S's that we are trying to tackle. A very brief introduction on the Archethic is that when we started tackling these problems, right, it essentially meant that we had to redefine the blockchain grounds up, right? So blockchain is also a layered technology, like the internet. The network is called a 7-layered OSI model, right? In the internet world. Similarly, blockchain also has layers to it, and tweaking any one layer has never given the required benefits. You can look at the current blockchains. There are many layer 2 protocols. They are trying to do something, but essentially, if you want to get that 100x kind of thing, 100x kind of improvement, like Akshay mentioned, you had to really tackle each and every layer of the blockchain, right? So a very brief introduction would be that in Archethic, we have tried to tackle every layer, starting from the peer-to-peer network. We are doing something a bit different than other blockchain when it comes to the peer-to-peer network design itself. Then comes the consensus, right? So when we talk of consensus, people talk of proof of work, proof of stake, but every consensus has its shortcomings and positives. We have tried to minimize the shortcomings and create something, a kind of a consensus that really alleviates the whole security problem, the 51% attack and all that stuff. Then comes your smart contracting layer, right, in the blockchain. So if you look at Ethereum and many others, the idea is they have created a Turing complete language. So suddenly now, if you have to create an application and a smart contract on top of your blockchain, you had to learn a new skill. And this goes back to the same 100x problem. I mean, why should I learn a new language, right? I mean, if I am a Java developer, why should I now learn Solidity or something like that? So that is another problem. That how do you tackle this whole smart contracting? How do you make it so simple that a person does not even need programming language, right? So we'll talk probably about our smart contracting layer, and then finally comes the UX part, which obviously that is now more towards the decentralized application. But the idea is, if your protocol has given you enough APIs and enough mechanisms, you can create a very rich user experience on top of it. So we are trying to kind of address each layer of the blockchain to attain that 100x kind of a improvement.
Great. So we don't want to reveal much about it in this episode, because the coming episodes will cover each aspect of it in detail. And while we are winding up this session, thank you so much, Nilesh and Akshay, for putting it out so neatly and so briefly for our community. A lot of you will be watching this episode for the first time, so please do go and check us out on archethic.net. You can follow us on social media. You can drop a hi in the comments below, or you can just join our Telegram group and be a part of our community. We'll come back next week with the next episode of the series, where we will, deep dive further into consensus mechanisms and smart contracts. But till then, thank you so much for watching, and bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.